Hi, today we're going to be talking about fraction operations, specifically adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. Let's start with adding and subtracting. Our first problem is 5/4 minus 3/4 and, well, there's the answer, but first let's back up. 5/4 minus 3/4. Now the thing with, focus. Come on, camera. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, my goodness. Now, the thing with, while I wait for this to get into focus, the thing with adding and subtracting and then fractions is that what you need is a common denominator. Oh my goodness. Alright, we're going to start far out. What you need is a common denominator. So that means that when the two things that you're adding or the two things that you're subtracting, you need to have the same number on the bottom because the denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction. So in this case it's 4, so it's already set for us, which is awesome. It makes our life so much easier because both fractions have a common denominator of 4. Now when there's a common denominator, and I kid you not, all you have to do is either subtract or add, depending on if you're adding and you're subtracting the fractions, with the top two numbers, and the denominator stays the exact same. So in this case, we're subtracting, because you see the little subtract sign in the middle. So you just literally go, since you have 4s all across the bottom on both fractions, 5 minus 3 equals 2. And then the 4 just carries over. It's 2/4, which, as you guys know, is equal to 1/2. Simple as that. Let's go over to this one, where we don't have the same denominator and it gets a little bit more complicated, but you guys can get it. Alright, we have 2 minus 13/8. So when you're seeing this right off the bat, you might freak out because you're like, 2? What? That's not a fraction, but all numbers can be fractions. 2 as a fraction is just 2/1. 2 divided by 1 equals 2. Alright, so let's ignore this top part and go down here. 2 minus 1 equals 13/8. So that's a little better because we've got 2 into a fraction, but it's not all the way there because 2/1 and 13/8, my bad, have different denominators. So it's not as easy as this one where we could just go 5 minus 3. What we have to do for this is create a common denominator. So what we do is find the least common multiple between these two current denominators, 1 and 8. And in this case it's 8 because 1 can go into 8 times. So to get 1 to 8 means to multiply this by 8, so you do the same thing on the top to 2. 2 times 8. So it becomes 16/8 minus 13/8. And you can just think about it as you're writing an equivalent fraction if 8 is the denominator instead of 1. So 16/8 is equal to 2 and 2/1 is equal to 2. Now, just like this one, it becomes super simple. 16 minus 3 is equal to 3. 3/8 is our answer. Alright. Let's move down to multiplying and dividing. We start with a division problem. 5/4 divided by 1/3. Alright, now what we do for this is called multiplying by the reciprocal. So we take 5/4 and that stays the same. But instead of dividing by 1/3, the easiest way to solve this problem is to multiply by 3/1. The reciprocal is when we flip this fraction. So instead of 1/3, it becomes 3/1. And we take away the divide sign and we create it into a cross for multiplication. So 5 times 3, I guess we're jumping the gun a little bit, but the way that you do multiplication for fractions is you just multiply straight across. No common denominators needed. 5 times 3, 15. 4 times 1, 4. And now that we've already done the reciprocal, that's all taken care of. So, wow, I mean, it's so simple. Our answer is 15/4. Because 5 times 3 is 15, numerator. 4 times 1 is 4, denominator. Multiply straight across with no common denominator needed. Now, of course, if this was a negative, then it would be negative 15, because negative 5 times 3 equals negative 15, so on and so forth. Alright, let's move over to this one. This one is kind of challenging, but we're going to get through it. Alright, we have negative 2 2/3 times 4 1/10. Alright, so it's multiplication, so we don't have to deal with that whole reciprocal business, which is great. But we do have mixed numbers. So when we have a mixed number, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into an improper fraction. And I'm going to teach you the way to do that. It's pretty simple. So what you do, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8/3. Then you have your negative, so it's negative 8/3. Alright, let's do it again. This is the way you turn an mixed number into an improper fraction. You multiply this whole number by the denominator, then you add the numerator and put it over the denominator that's already there. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, 8/3, and you have a negative, so it's negative 8/3. Now for this one, it's 4 times 10 is 40, plus 1 is 41 over 10. Here we go. Now we've turned these into improper fractions. Now since it's multiplication, we multiply straight across. Negative 8 times 41 is negative 328, and 3 times 10 is 30. Negative 328 over 30 is equal to, now we turn it back into a mixed number by multiplying how many times does 30 go into 328, and it's negative 10 and 28/30ths times, which can be simplified by cutting this fraction 28/30ths into dividing it by 2, which is the greatest common factor of those two numbers, negative 10 and 14/15. All right, that was kind of a lot. Let's review the steps. We turned these improper mixed numbers into improper fractions. We multiplied straight across to get this giant improper fraction. We figured out how many times does 30 go into this, and it's negative 10 whole times since it's a negative number, and 28/30ths times. Now, by dividing this by the greatest common factor of these two numbers for this fraction, and in this case it's 2, we get negative 10 and 14/15 as our final answer. Alright, as always, I'm going to give you 2 problems to try at home by yourself. First is an adding and subtracting problem. 16 6/6 minus, in parentheses, negative 13/7. And then our one for adding and multiplying and dividing, which happens to be a division problem, is 3 4/5 divided by 1 5/5. So for 1 1/5, my goodness. So remember for this one that you're going to need to go back and remember mixed number to improper fraction and then multiplying by reciprocal. Alright, good luck. Thanks for listening.